How did you identify which problems in your career are actually worth solving? Does that make sense? Because you could work on menial bug fixes and never get you promoted. How did you all figure out what to work on?
When I was at Netflix, that's where I felt like I was at that inflection point between senior and staff. And initially, I was working on like these detection projects of trying to detect threat actors and all this stuff with Flink. And they were trying to build out this thing called like a SOC-less security system. It's like a security system without a security operations center. And it was like all just automated. And one of the things I recognized pretty quickly was that this was a lot. That this was a lot. That this was not. This was like almost too ambitious. And so I noticed that there was another project that we were working on, which was like this graph database that was gonna hold on to all the information on like applications, databases, data sets, customer data, like all the different connections of just everything in the infrastructure. And it was going to be that fundamental infrastructure. And they were like, hey, Zach, do you want to work on this? And I'm like, that sounds like something that is going to give value, even if it doesn't get used for that case, right? It has branching use cases. And I recognize that I needed to get off of detection and onto that. And that's really where that's when Netflix gave me a lot more money. That's when I definitely got a lot more respect from people at Netflix. And I definitely felt like I was in that more leadership role after I transitioned to that. And I think that was the big thing I recognized, was that like more than just like what you were saying, that Rahul, about you don't want to be working on like tasks or things that don't have enough scope, but you also don't want to be working on projects that are like high in the sky and projects that like are risky, right? That might not even pan out, right? Because that's also very important.
What I've seen, the more senior people get, the more they have this muscle to determine how much impact there is in a project before investing time into it. And so you might experience this where you're asking a more senior person for some small change, and they might actually never get to it because they have that muscle and they're checking it. They might be quick to backlog things. And at the same time, if you are able to show them projects that have particular scope, maybe they involve many different orgs, or maybe the metrics and roadmap milestones that they're achieving are quite important to the org. Like maybe it's something that matters to a group of 30 people rather than something that's like a small thing within a team. Developing that ability to see what matters and see what is impactful and then invest your time accordingly is really important.
And how do you develop that muscle, Ryan? Is it just like looking at past projects and figure out what worked?
Yeah, I think the way that I developed that is through looking at the incentives of the org. So you can see most teams publish plans, and you can see some team is planning on moving this metric by 5% or something like that. And I have an idea that's going to move it by 7% or something. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that project, if I do that, that achieves a team level goal. So it's somewhat substantial. Also, there's some intuition too. I think at some point I worked on some ads projects, even though it was like completely unrelated to my team, just because I saw, okay, there's a pretty substantial opportunity for revenue. And I just knew that, okay, this is going to be good for the business. And it turned out that it was quite impactful. And that led to my senior promotion. So it was something that no one really assigned to me. And I was just digging around for ways to have impact.